You ever do that thing where you scroll through your feeds for, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes, and then you look up and just feel kind of empty? We've all been told the problem is just too much screen time. But what if that's not it at all? Seriously, let's get into this, because the real issue isn't about the clock. It's about the kind of screen you're looking at. See, right now, under the surface, there's this massive, almost invisible migration happening online. People are quietly leaving the loud, public town squares of social media and finding totally new places to hang out. And if you understand where they're going, well, that's the secret to fixing your own relationship with the internet. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at this great digital migration. Then we'll dive into the psychology of why these new spaces feel so much better. After that, I'm going to give you a really simple 3-step framework to build a healthier online life. And finally, we'll zoom out and see what this all means for the future of connection. Okay, so for pretty much the last decade, our online world has been built around this one idea, the town square. You know, a giant open plaza where everybody has a megaphone and is trying to shout over everybody else. And this right here is the key. Look at the difference. The town square, that's your main feed on Instagram or TikTok, it's built for performance. It's a stage. And what's the main side effect? Social comparison. And that leads to this thing researchers call psychological attrition. It literally just wears you down. But on the other side, you have the digital campfire. These are your Discords, your group chats, your niche forums. They aren't for broadcasting. They're built for belonging, for actual connection. And the result? You get intimacy and support, not burnout. There's actually a really cool term for this whole shift, fractalization. I know, it sounds a little academic, but the idea is simple. We're moving away from these huge one-size-fits-all platforms and into this huge network of tiny, intimate communities. It's basically us adapting to the burnout of the public feed. And these campfires, they're literally everywhere once you start looking. It's that WhatsApp group with your 3 best friends. It's a Discord server for a show nobody else you know watches. It's a subreddit dedicated to, like, baking sourdough bread. These are the places where people like us can actually connect over something we share, instead of just performing for status. So why do these smaller spots feel so much better? It's not just that they're small. It comes down to one core psychological principle that the big social media giants kind of forgot about. The secret sauce here is something called psychological safety. All that means is it's a place where you feel safe enough to be yourself, to ask a dumb question, to share a half-baked idea, to even disagree without being terrified you're going to get jumped on. It's the feeling that, hey, it's okay to be vulnerable here. This group has my back. And honestly, this is a huge moment. Once you really get the importance of psychological safety, everything changes. You can stop blaming yourself for feeling bad online and start making strategic choices about where you spend your time. Now, let's explore a hidden pattern here that almost nobody ever talks about. What about the lurkers? You know, the people who are in all the groups, see all the posts, but never, ever say anything. We usually think they're just being passive, but what if they're actually being incredibly smart? It turns out, for a lot of people, not posting isn't about being passive. It's an act of self-regulation. It's a way to get the good stuff from the community, the information, the sense of belonging, without taking on the risk and the stress that comes from putting yourself out there in public. So if you're the kind of person who likes to listen more than you talk online, you're not doing anything wrong. In fact, you're probably being emotionally intelligent. You're getting the value while protecting your own peace of mind. That's a clever strategy, not a flaw. Okay, this is all fascinating, but what do we do with it? Well, I'm going to give you a simple 3-step framework. It's based on actual research, and it's totally doable, I promise. This is how we go from just knowing there's a problem to actively building a better digital world for ourselves. The framework couldn't be simpler. First, we're going to audit how you use things now. Second, we'll diversify your campfires. And third, we'll learn to build new connections with intention. Let's dig into each one. All right, step 1, audit your use. Check this out. Research from Harvard found a huge difference between 2 types of use. There's routine use, which is like checking a group for updates or messaging a friend. That's actually linked to feeling better. But then there's emotional connection. That's when you're checking your phone because you have FOMO or you feel anxious when you're not logged in. That's what's linked to the bad stuff. The question to ask yourself is, am I using this app or is this app using me? Step 2, diversify. It's simple. Don't put all your social eggs in one basket. There's this concept called the social cure, and the research shows that people who belong to a few different groups are just more resilient. It makes sense, right? Maybe you have one campfire for work stuff, another for a hobby you love, and a third that's just for your best friends. Each one fills a different need, making your whole sense of self stronger. And finally, step 3 is to build with intention. So instead of just randomly falling into new online spaces, we're going to use a really cool psychological framework called Snyder's Hope Theory to be a bit more strategic about it. Hope theory is just 3 simple parts. First, goals. What kind of connection do you actually need? Support? Learning? Just geeking out with people? Second, pathways. Where can you find it? Is it a specific forum, a Discord server? And third, agency. What is the absolute smallest first step you can take to join? Just click the button. That's it. Goal, pathway, action. Super simple, but it works. And just like that, you have an actual strategy. Seriously, just by thinking through these 3 steps, you've done more to take intentional control of your digital life than most people ever do. That's the power of having a clear plan. So, what does this all add up to? What is the future of connection actually going to look like? Look, this big migration online isn't some trend. It's a fundamental human reaction to a digital world that got way too loud and way too draining. It shows that what we really want is connection, not just an audience. The future isn't about collecting followers, it's about finding your people. It's time to go find your campfire. But this whole thing leaves us with a massive and kind of tricky question. If all the thoughtful, nuanced, and interesting people retreat into their cozy private campfires, what happens to the public square? Who's left to have the hard, important conversations that society needs to have? Hey, if you know somebody who's just constantly exhausted by social media, maybe share this with them. It might just be the permission slip they didn't know they needed to stop trying to perform in the town square and finally go find their own campfire. Share CTA for Social Smarts.
If this touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share it with your family. Save this for more meaningful content ahead.